everybody's live. There we are. So today, YouTube is over here, Facebook is over there, audio is down here, and off we go.
I like how you did this higher today, because I look skinnier.
So this is for our majestic profile shots. Good morning, everyone. Episode 6 of the Eve and Levi podcast, Into the Badlands, and we'll explain why that's the name here in a little bit. We've got some new technology going on, so I need to figure out how to pull up our agenda for the day, but we're so happy to be home again. As you can see behind us, we're back in Carrollton, Texas at our lovely domicile. Holly the dog is super excited to be not living in the van anymore. I don't think she was traumatized, but she's happy to be home for sure. We've got our coffee going. Good morning, Ruth. Lovely to see you today.
Let's set this up and tell people who don't know what's been going on.
If you're just joining us.
4 years ago, I fell in love with a man who had a dream, and it was to basically live in a van. And
Down by the river?
I squandered that dream as soon as I possibly could.
Squandered?
Yeah.
Wasted. We have not wasted the dream.
I did something.
You tried to squash it.
And it sounded horrible, but he kept on talking about the van, and eventually I came around. He said he would solve all my problems with road travel, which I wanted to have internet. I wanted to be able to lay down. I wanted to have food. I wanted to have comfortable places and all these things. And he was like, I will solve all of that. So we bought a custom camper van last January, not this past January, the one before, and outfitted it with a hidden toilet and a microwave and a bed that folds out for us and a bed that folds out for Luna and internet. What else?
I mean,
solar power. Like, you don't even have to park in an RV park. You just go, and it just looks like a work van, but inside it's like this Mac Daddy van. And I began to fall in love with this man, and I fell in love with the idea of maybe he was right. Maybe van travel was for me. And so last year we went to like 6 states. We really had a great time.
Yeah.
The van went all over the place. Good morning, Mike. So we're going to be posting the route that we took, but we set off on a journey to get me the heck out of Dallas for the summer because I hate the heat. And the only goal was we were going to take a trip that was unplanned, which was basically the first unplanned trip of my life.
That was my contribution to the summer agenda.
Yes, and we were going to go
part.
To a place I've always wanted to see, which is
Banff.
We're going to go
Canada.
To Banff, Canada, from not only Dallas, but we actually started from Kerrville, which is by San Antonio, Texas. So tell them the story of how this all happened, Levi.
So we've got some numbers, which, as you mentioned, you guys will find on our social media accounts in a little while, because I'm a nerd and I have a little widget plugged into the van that tells you exactly how far you've driven and what your mileage was, and I was fascinated by all of it. So on our total trip, we covered, I sent it to you last night. What was it?
Over 5,000 miles.
Over 5,000 miles. We averaged over 20 miles per gallon. So for those of you who are buying an RV and getting like 3 miles to the gallon, like think about the van. It's an affordable option.
What kind of van is it?
It is a 2016 Dodge ProMaster 1500, which is basically the smallest version of the Dodge ProMaster, but with the high roof. So it's very short and compact and front wheel drive and beautiful, and you can stand up in the back. So we started from Kerrville. We drove north quickly. We stopped in Happy, Texas, which you should look up on a map somewhere. We slept in the post office parking lot.
Because we're classy.
That one was like, I was just tired. Like, it was just time to sleep for a while. Then we headed north again after that, and we drove all the way to Breckenridge and met our friends.
Well, wait a minute. In Happy, Texas, it was kind of hot. We parked next to a railroad track, and during the middle of the night, the train blew its whistle.
Yeah.
Happy was an adventure.
But the whole thing was an adventure.
Yeah.
So anytime we say, like, if you've ever read like fantasy novels where your heroes are journeying across the landscape and then they like just skip ahead 3 weeks in the narrative, like just assume that adventures happened in those 3 weeks. They just weren't as noteworthy in the
They're pretty noteworthy.
in the service of not doing a 1 hour podcast.
We were trying to drive as quickly as possible to get away from the heat so we could sleep in the van, which we figured out pretty much needs to be 70 degrees if you really want to be comfortable.
Well, yeah.
Unless you're a genius, good morning, Rodney, unless you're a genius and you find a solution with solar power and electricity in the van to keep your wife cool.
Yeah, let's talk about the van a little bit. So the van is not what most people would call an RV. An RV has an air conditioner that works even when the engine is off, but you usually have to be plugged in at an RV park to make that work. It's what they call shore power. You have to have electricity next to your vehicle. This is not an RV. We don't have that air conditioner installed. We don't have a heater when the engine is off. So I have this little propane heater from Coleman called the Little Buddy. And it's rated for indoor use and it works and we've used it. But when it's hot is a little trickier because there aren't really air conditioners that work just off of solar power unless you have like the entire roof of your house running on solar power. Certainly not the roof of a van. So what I found was a swamp cooler. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with swamp coolers, Eve doesn't like this example, but if you do this, like lick your arm and then blow on it, and you'll see that where you licked your arm is a little cooler than the rest of your arm. So that's how evaporative cooling works. When water evaporates, it transfers some heat away from whatever is happening. So what a swamp cooler is basically is it's about the size of a couple of shoe boxes, and this one can hold up about a gallon of water, and there's a really big 4-inch fan at the back of it that is blowing across this water, and the water gets soaked up into a little screen, and as the air blows through that screen, the air coming out is cooler than the air going in, and that's how we cool off. There's no temperature setting. You don't say like, I want it to be 68 degrees in here, but it will drop the temperature by up to 20 degrees versus the outside air.
It really saved us. Where did you buy the swamp cooler from?
I got it on Amazon, and I'm trying to remember, I believe the company's called Swampy, and we can post some of this in the show notes on the website, but it's a couple of guys, I am sure, building this in their garages in Arizona. Arizona is a perfect place for this kind of thing, but it works as advertised. It's a little noisy, but that was actually great for Eve, because there's kind of some white noise to
How much was
help
it?
us sleep. It was about $300, which
It was totally worth it.
sounds like a lot, but if you're comparing it to a $900 air conditioner that we couldn't operate anyway, it really was the only solution. I tried building some things with ice in a bucket and a fan, and it just never quite worked.
Good morning, Maria. So we're talking about our trip across the country and into Canada in the van. Some nights were hot, so we used the swamp cooler, which worked so well. I liked it because it was loud and sounded like a window unit, and I love the sound of window units. It reminds me of my grandma's house in Bunkie. I love it. Good morning, Carly. So we set out, we went to Happy, Texas the first night. Second night, we got to go see our friends. We got all the way to right by Breckenridge, Colorado. Got to go visit with Debbie and Ralph and had a fabulous time with them. Got to meet their kids and see their beautiful house.
Got to find out what altitude oxygen deprivation does to people from the lowlands.
Yeah, we were in Silverthorne, but we went to dinner in Breckenridge, and how high was that? Like,
It's over 10,000 feet. I think it was closer to 12.
I just checked out at dinner. Like, I started falling asleep, and I got really stupid, and people kept talking, and I really did not know what was going on. I was not the best with that.
So, and you'll hear a lot of this in earlier episodes, but from there we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which was gorgeous on the recommendation of
Dan
Aptor, who said, yeah, you have to go see Jackson Hole, and it was incredible. We saw buffalo. We then continued north.
And it was cool there.
And it was cool
So we
there.
saw our park.
Yes.
Also, this entire trip was mostly touring dog parks across the nation.
We've seen some amazing dog parks.
The dog was pretty scared of being in the van that much, so she would stand up between us while we were driving and put her face on us like this and start to fall asleep while she was standing up. She just looked kind of miserable until Levi figured out what to do.
We finally figured out that if we set the dog crate up in the van while we were driving, she would at least feel secure enough to maybe rest a little bit and not just be constantly stressed out. So she did a great job. She's only a year old, and honestly, like, she could have whined, she could have like peed in the vehicle, she could have done all of these anxiety caused things. She was awesome. She was a trooper.
And the way we paid her off is every dang dog park there was, we went to it and played fetch.
Yeah.
Like every
And she
time.
had a great time and behaved herself beautifully. So Breckenridge, we went to Casper, Wyoming, we went to Big Sky, Montana.
Yes, and we hit all these states that I'd never been to before: Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. Those were South Dakota, all states we had never been to before, and the country is just
it's amazing.
Gorgeous.
We finally stopped at an Airbnb in Alta, Wyoming, which was delightful. We had a fabulous time, met the librarians there.
It was my favorite place.
Yeah.
Alta, Wyoming was my favorite place. It was just like by these little towns. It was at the foot of the Grand Teton Mountains, which were huge. And I'm not an educated mountain person. Good morning, Mark. And I like when the mountains are like snowy and green. Like you have a mountain that's snowy and green and like they're right next to each other. And these were perfectly framed out of our back door. And we did laundry and the weather was like 60 degrees and you needed a jacket in the morning. And then Holly almost made some friends. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, Holly made a friend. What was her name?
Maya, but that's not the friend I'm talking about.
The
Friends.
Yeah, so we have a city dog, and the city dog is unaware of what skunks look and smell like. So she saw a couple of baby, maybe adolescent skunks who were out on their own, just kind of checking things out. And Holly was like, "You are amazing. We should play together," and just took off after him. And I was like, "Oh God, if she gets skunked, we're done this trip. Like we're just gonna have to like let the dog run behind the car." But luckily, rather than turning and dousing her, they ran back under the building that they had come from. So that was close. That was close. Because really, if you've ever been around, I mean, we all know the smell of skunk from like roadkill or something. But if you've ever been around an animal that has been sprayed by a skunk, like it's almost impossible to get that out. Good morning, Mark. Hi, Murray. For those of you,
bad, but those skunks were really cute.
Yeah, for those of you not watching this on Facebook, we're saying good morning to folks that are joining us on the Facebook Live on Eve's account. So that is all the welcomes.
So Alta, Wyoming was my favorite place that we went to. I would love to go back there. The Airbnb we stayed at was right by a library. Holly made a friend named Maya and ran in the grass with the friend, the puppy, and it was just amazing. And the program at the library was a cellist who was from New York.
Who played with the Philharmonic for
35 years.
35 years, her whole career basically.
Yeah, and it was just such a good program, and two young girls who were playing the cello, and it was just the nicest people, and I could have stayed there for a week or two and been happy. But we
pressed
forged
on.
Yes, we continued on.
North to Calgary. I think we slept one night in Shelby, Wyoming.
Yeah.
Actually, we got a Best Western there.
Yes, we did.
So we got a hotel room in Shelby, and then we crossed the border at Sweetgrass, Montana, into Canada. We drove up to Calgary to see our friends at, is it Western Canada?
Western Canadian.
Canadian.
And you know, it's interesting because the Idaho-Wyoming border was particularly gorgeous, and I didn't know much about the states. And good morning, Nicole and Kira. Thank you, Miss Murray. And you know, we were actually a little bit nervous about crossing the border because we'd never crossed a border in a car.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever had before.
I'd done all the reading. Like, if you have your dog, you got to have their rabies records, and they have to be up to date. And like, you can only bring dog food in the original commercial packaging, and et cetera, et cetera. There wasn't a lot of things, but there were a couple of things. Like, if you're entering Canada, you need to have these things lined up. And we pulled up no guns. Yes, our friends in Calgary were like, "You're from Texas. You can't bring guns into Canada."
We were like, "We actually don't own any
we're not
guns,
going to
so we're good."
So we got up to the border and we handed our passports over, and they asked us 6 questions and said, "Please come to Canada." Yeah.
So we got to Canada. The roads in Canada were lovely.
And the speed limits were lower. So smooth roads, lower speed limits. Everything was metric, so I had to like adjust that in my head. But that's fine. Luckily, my speedometer on the inner ring has kilometers per hour, and Holly loved it because everything was smooth and we were going slow. And we had dinner in Calgary with
George and Irene, who are friends of ours and past clients of ours, and they were just lovely. And Calgary was beautiful. They were getting ready for Stampede, which is the largest rodeo on earth. Basically.
And by the way, so a couple things we learned about Calgary. Calgary is about 1.3 million folks. It's a large city, but not, you know, on the scale of Tokyo or New York or even Dallas. And I always thought of Stampede, Calgary Stampede, I've heard about it, but I always thought of it as like there being some large stockyard, you know, outside of slightly on the edge of Calgary where they would have this thing. It's in a really small space. If you live in a city with a downtown baseball stadium, imagine that size of space that the stadium takes up is about all it is for Calgary Stampede. And there's a little carnival area, and there's the track where they have the chuck wagon races and some of the rodeo stuff and the big amphitheater. But they run over 1 million people through the gates of the Stampede grounds every year for Stampede in a week. Seeing it and seeing how compact all of that was really interesting.
True, and George really talked about too how the whole city does Stampede.
Yeah,
like everybody.
He compared it to Mardi
is
Gras in terms of the involvement. Like every business and everything about the city just switches over to Stampede mode, much like in New Orleans, everything switches over to Mardi Gras mode when it's Mardi Gras time.
And we got to tour their office, Western Canadian, and their office was gorgeous and huge and just amazing. And they're just the sweetest people. They loved Holly. They kept giving her milk bones.
Yeah.
And that's why Holly loved George more than anyone.
They offered us a spot in their parking lot, which is another advantage of having the van.
Which we almost did, but then we decided to grab a hotel at Hotel Arts, which is in downtown in Calgary. They allow dogs, and that was awesome. We forgot a part. We forgot about driving in the mountains. We forgot about Yellowstone and crossing the Continental Divide. And
we did all that in the last episode.
Yeah?
I mean, like we
really covered it.
We can take lots of time to do that again.
So it led to so many national parks, and as you drive, you go through so many national parks. I thought Yellowstone was beautiful, but honestly, to me, the Teton National Park was my favorite. I thought it was incredible.
We saw Old Faithful. We crossed the Continental Divide. These are all just like the bullet point highlights.
Good morning, Deanne and Debbie.
Wow, you can read that. Good job.
Yeah.
So we're in Calgary, and George said, "Listen, the Rockies around Jackson Hole are great, but the Rockies you're going to see in Banff are
ridiculous.
More impressive." So from Calgary, we moved on to Banff, and he was right. We drove through Banff National Park.
Yep.
To Banff Village, where we had a fabulous little hotel, the Fox Hotel and Lodge.
And suites, Fox Hotel and Suites.
Yeah. So,
and it was perfect for dogs because you went in through the outside.
Yeah, they had exterior entrances for all the rooms. We did a little laundry. We walked around Banff a ton. We drove, where did we drive the one day? We drove up to see Lake Louise. Now, the traffic at Lake Louise was insane. And we actually, we could have spent 2 hours just sitting in a traffic jam waiting to see Lake Louise, but we didn't because screw that.
So here's a tip: if you go into Lake Louise and everybody's wanting to go get on the lake and see it.
This is in non-skiing season, to be clear.
Totally.
If you're going there when the weather is nice and not when the weather is suitable for skiing.
So when you come from Banff and you drive to Lake Louise, everybody's turning left because they're going to see the lake. Instead, turn right and go to the gondola. And you get in the gondola and you go up, and it is one of the most stunning views I've seen in my life. Just gorgeous mountains.
I've got
surrounding you.
I've got a video on my Facebook account if y'all want to check it out of the trip back down the gondola. And it was an amazing ride. The gondola is functionally a ski lift, but in the off season they just send you up there to do some sightseeing.
And you can see the mountains, and you can see Lake Louise, and you can see everything, and it was beautiful. It was just beautiful and peaceful and quiet. And you could hear babbling brooks and rivers, and it was amazing. I loved it.
After that, we were going to be gone for 3 weeks, and we decided, my God, it's been a long couple of weeks. So we basically left Banff and drove south as quickly as we could. We stopped a couple of things we wanted to see on the way back. We went back into South Dakota instead of coming down through Montana and Wyoming. We saw Crazy Horse, which was amazing.
Also, Dan said we should do that.
Yes, Dan said we should do that. Crazy Horse was amazing, not just for what's happening there, but for the idea behind what's happening there. If you think about the pyramids being built over hundreds of years in Egypt, and the scale and the scope and the epic idea behind that, and then you think, well, we don't really have anything like that left in the world now, go see Crazy Horse, because that is, there are people, it has its critics for sure, but it is an undertaking on a scale that we just don't generally think of anymore. It's a physical structure that's going to take 100 years to complete. it's pretty amazing.
I want to talk a little bit about Crazy Horse because I want to be completely honest and tell you that I didn't know anything about Crazy Horse. I didn't have it on my list to go see. We were going to see Mount Rushmore, and Dan Apter was like, go see Crazy Horse because it's close to Mount Rushmore and it's amazing. So we went, and it is a giant mountain that right now has a face carved out of it, and you can see that it's being prepared for further, carving. Basically,
The face, by the way, is 86 feet high.
yes, it's bigger than the faces on Mount Rushmore,
Yes.
like much bigger. And so you see it, and it looks incredible, but it's in no way finished, which honestly I was surprised about and thought, oh, we're gonna go see a finished statue of a horse. I didn't know. Okay,
She thought it was a
Sorry.
horse,
I
first of
didn't
all.
know. It was called Crazy
For
Horse.
those of you who might not be familiar, Crazy Horse was an Indian warrior, and I'm going to get the tribe, I should say.
Don't say the tribe if you don't know.
I should say Native American. I'm going to get the tribe wrong. I'm going to know a lot about it. Google Wikipedia Crazy Horse, and you can learn about his life and times and why this monument is using his image. It's just an amazing story.
But I'm going to tell them a little bit about it because it was one of my favorite things. The gondola was my favorite, and this was my favorite. Basically, a guy who was a sculptor on Mount Rushmore got asked by Native Americans to build a tribute to their heroes, and so he decided to do it. Like, sure, no problem, I'll do that. This was in 1940. In 1946, he on his own began traveling up this mountain with a really crappy piece of equipment and started carving this mountain into this giant sculpture that he had envisioned. Good morning, Sandy. And he knew that this would take longer than his lifetime, and it really made me think about myself. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty good person, and I want to help people and I want to do things, but it would be hard for me to sit here and come up with a plan that would not be achieved during my lifetime or even during my child's lifetime. So anyway, he started on this project. He got married. He said he had 10 kids because he needed more workers for this sculpture, which was amazing. And now this sculpture is this amazing tribute to Native Americans, and it's beautiful. And it's still, right now, just the completed face and won't be finished during his children's lifetime, which now have taken over.
Yeah.
And
Now
might not
his
even be-
grandkids are working on it.
Yeah, his grandkids
So-
are working on it. They have a center for a university for
Yeah.
Native Americans. They have an education center. It is incredible and just speaks, I think, to the human spirit and acceptance between people.
And part of it too that was just amazing, and he repeatedly turned down government money to assist in the completion of this because he felt that the government was not going to realize the vision in the way that he had been asked to realize it. So it's 100% privately funded. We paid $12 a head to get in, so it was $24 for both of us.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. It is very much presented as not just this big statue, but it is a university which they're working towards accredited degree programs for Native Americans. It is a cultural education center for the people that come and visit to learn more about these people that have been marginalized to such a great degree. It's really just an amazing undertaking, and if you have the opportunity to go, I highly recommend it. If you have the opportunity to just read a little bit about it, I would do that as well.
So we've agreed that we will go back when we are 84, because we're both 44 right now, and we're gonna go back in 40 years.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's not 40 years.
It is 40.
Oh, it is? Yeah. I'm
Math.
super good with math. Good morning, Kyle and Benita. How are you guys? So after that, we went to Mount Rushmore.
And we kind of like drove by Mount Rushmore and looked at it and took the picture and was like,
No, we spent hours.
No.
Hours. No, I got a little hot.
it was hot. We were up in the hills, in the Black Hills. So, into the Badlands.
Mount Rushmore was very nice.
Mount
though.
Rushmore
It
was
was
awesome.
very beautiful.
Into the Badlands is the name of this episode. If you are a fan of AMC or you've seen the AMC show Into the Badlands, this is not similar to that. But we were in the Badlands. We were in the Black Hills. Actually, the Badlands came after. Sorry, Black Hills, Badlands, two separate things.
The Badlands were not pretty.
We were in the Black Hills, and we came down out of the Black Hills, and we continued our journey home, and we just cranked a ton of miles, like just a ton of miles.
Explain what the Badlands look like, because everything else we saw was like mountains and then Black
The
Hills and
Badlands,
gorgeous and lush.
the Badlands look like the movie set for a sci-fi movie set on another planet. Like, it's very alien looking, especially if you're from the Midwest. It's just a landscape you've not seen before. Now, I highly recommend seeing it, and then just from the car window as you drive by. Like, it does not look inviting.
When we planned this trip, good morning, Sylvia, we planned to go to Banff, We planned to understand that we were going to be in cool weathers. We didn't have a solid plan, but there was one request that my husband made. There was a place that he had dreamed of seeing for much of his life and said, can we please go to?
Wall Drug. So some of you know about Wall Drug,
Do you really?
Most of you don't know
Do
about
you
Wall
really
Drug.
know about Wall Drug?
you're
Please
watching,
comment below
there
if
are
you've
6
heard
of you
it.
watching right now. Please chime in with whether or not you've heard of Wall Drug. Wall Drug is in Wall, South Dakota.
Which was an hour and a half outside of our route home.
Sure.
But,
but it was on the agenda. So Wall Drug opened in 1931. Yeah, Kira says no, of course.
Yeah, that's your daughter
She's a
supporting
young
you.
person. It was opened in 1931. It was a pharmacy. It was a little soda fountain drugstore in Wall, South Dakota on Main Street, and they were trying to figure out how to get people to come off of the highway and into Wall to do some business and spend some money. So they started giving away free glasses of ice water in the late 1930s.
that does make sense.
And it just became a place to stop. And there are signs all the way along the highway for 100 miles before you get there saying Wall Drug. And since then, it's become exactly what you think, it's exactly what Americans do with anything that's popular, is they over-commercialize it and they keep adding on. So now Wall Drug is basically 2 city blocks of downtown Wall, South Dakota, and is basically I'm sure responsible for the majority of commerce in Wall, South Dakota.
So when Levi told me he wanted to do this, I listened because honestly in this relationship, it's really about me having wants and Levi making sure they get fulfilled. Would you say that's fair for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, I'd take care of you too, but sure.
You totally take care of me, but when you actually say you want something, it's amazing because you never say you want anything. You don't care where we go to eat. You don't care where we go on vacation.
No.
You don't care. You're like, whatever.
But Wall Drug.
I want to go to Wall Drug. And then he read every billboard, which was every 500 feet for 30 miles.
But
What
how
does
does it
Mark
compare
say?
to Buc-ee's?
It's bigger than Buc-ee's.
It's bigger than Buc-ee's. So
It's freaking bigger than Buc-ee's. I couldn't believe it.
Buc-ee's is a truck stop.
I love
With
Buc-ee's.
food, Buc-ee's is awesome. The bathrooms are clean, and that's their value proposition, right? I want you to imagine if you're from the Midwest and you know of Silver Dollar City, for instance, Wall Drug is much more like Silver Dollar City, but indoors because it gets really hot there. So they have a couple of restaurants. They have shops for t-shirts, hunting gear. Imagine a really big Bass Pro Shop, the really big Bass Pro Shop, but even more carnival-like.
It's very country. It's been there since 1931,
Yeah.
I think, right? And you know what I realized after we left? We didn't get any damn ice water. I saw no
She was so angry.
free ice water, which my mom asked me. I was like, oh my God, where was the ice water?
I got a t-shirt, which is all I
You
really
did. You
wanted.
should have worn that today. But they had t-shirts. They had a restaurant. They had an ice cream shop. They had a shoe shop. They had a shooting gallery. They had
You could buy knives and fishing gear
everything.
and all kinds of stuff.
It was bigger than Buc-ee's. It was bigger than Bass
Oh, yeah.
Pro. It was amazing.
You don't go there to gas up and replenish your supplies. You go there to go to Wall Drug.
It was amazing.
That's the thing.
So was that your favorite part of the trip?
I don't know if it was my favorite, but I feel like that was the biggest accomplishment of the trip. For sure. I've seen Banff, I've seen the Grand Tetons, but Wall Drug, and I never have to go back. I will go back and see the Tetons again. I don't need to go to Wall ever.
You don't?
No.
You don't want to go back and show your trip?
But I crossed it off the list. That's what I
I'm
had.
proud of you. Good morning, Amelia. Yes, Kira, it was amazing. I have not seen your dad this excited for really anything, so it was incredible.
Yeah.
So Wall Drug, and basically we realized, and this was my fault, van trips are cool. Van trips for 3 weeks, maybe not.
Maybe a little too long.
Van trips where you're driving to another country, maybe not. I feel like next time if we did this, I would have been perfectly happy driving to Alta, Wyoming, staying in Alta, Wyoming for a week, exploring, and then driving back on a different route.
Yeah.
What would you have done?
No,
if you
I
did
mean,
different?
it was an ambitious trip, and we went without a plan for a reason, and I feel like we learned a lot. We have some other things we can talk about.
Well, let's talk about what's really controversial, right? Which has been my hair, right? So I got my hair in braids, thanks to Phyllis, in preparation for living in a van for 3 weeks, because as some of you may know, I can be high maintenance in certain areas, and I go and get my hair washed like an older lady twice a week, because I don't like doing it myself. And so I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I got my hair braided, and it has really been split with the people who have reached out and said, Eve, you look great, and other people who are trying to be nice and be like, Eve, dear God, please get the braids out of your hair. It's horrendous. Good morning, Katie. What's your opinion on the braids?
I love you, and you're beautiful, and that's my opinion.
That sounds like you don't like them. That's not what you told me earlier.
I mean, I think they're great. I think they look good. I don't think they're permanent. I don't care anymore if they're.
What do you think? Let me know how you feel about the braids. We've got, like, what is today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Wednesday.
They'll be here till Sunday.
They'll be here till Sunday. But I'm gonna
So
probably do it again next year.
other things we learned. The wide open spaces of the Mountain Time Zone do not have good
Oh my
mobile
gosh.
data. Between us, so I have a Project 5 phone, which is like a combination of T-Mobile and a couple other services. Eve has AT&T. We had a hotspot from Sprint, and usually we could get something out of one of them, but there were long stretches where there just wasn't any mobile data. We stopped at a tiny town at the foot of the Rockies, and I saw 3 flip phones in the space of like 150 feet because there was no mobile data. And there wasn't a lot of Wi-Fi either. Like the coffee shops, like they had internet, but it wasn't what we're used to in a major metropolitan area. So what we learned is there are big chunks of the country that just don't do the internet.
Oh my gosh, yo, I was promised internet in this van. I will just say, I was promised internet or phone service or something. And there were hours of time where we just had to talk to each other.
Why you gotta say it like that?
Just saying. It was something. Good morning,
Conversations,
Look,
holy crap.
Deanne is a hair professional and she loves my braids.
Well, your braids are awesome.
Okay.
So we learned
Flip
that there are large chunks of that part of the country where you might be able to make a phone call, but you're definitely not checking email or, God forbid, watching Netflix.
The horror, says Mark.
It was, yeah.
That was rough, man.
We did in the last 2 days, we averaged about 600 miles a day. That's a lot of driving time in the van.
It wasn't more than that because we drove from Banff to Carrollton in 2 days.
Yeah, but it was a lot of miles
Yes.
to do that. So, and we're not, we're digital professionals and sort of
We have issues.
digital addicts.
We got a lot of issues.
So we learned that. We also
didn't
learned
work much.
We didn't work much. This was a vacation. We learned that we can all function in the van. Like I said, maybe 3 weeks was too long, but we don't hate each other. The dog adjusted once we figured a couple things out. She
tried when she got home, and Levi said, "Crate." She tried to go outside and
Yeah.
get back into the van to get back into her crate to go to bed.
She was a champ. She really was. She clearly did not like riding in the van that much, but.
Tell them the best dog park we went to.
Which one?
Sue Higgins.
Oh my gosh. So, in Calgary, and the folks in Calgary, I apologize, it's Southland and there was another word, but the actual...
Download your shows next time.
Oh, yeah, we should have done that.
Why don't we do that?
The park is called Sue Higgins Park. The folks in Calgary call it Southland something, but Sue Higgins Park is a giant, completely enclosed dog park. Hi, Bess.
It is the biggest dog park I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so Bess is in Kansas City, and Kira, if you can imagine Shawnee Mission Park with a dog fence around the entire thing. I walked the entire length of it with Holly, and it took us about 45 to 50 minutes. It's beautiful, it's naturally, like they haven't messed with it, it's not turf, it's the natural grasses. There's a couple spots where it opens where you can take your dog to the river and they can swim. It was incredible, and it was full, like it was being heavily used, but even with that, it was so large that you didn't feel crowded, and the dogs were just in heaven as well.
It was
big
beautiful.
dogs, little dogs, like it was great. So we stopped there on our way through Calgary the first time, and on our way back, we stopped and let the dog go for an hour or so, and she was just in heaven. It was amazing.
Best congratulations on the cutest baby ever. Nice work out of you.
Yes.
So what city did we go to that had the nicest people?
The nicest people were in Casper, Wyoming.
Yes.
Casper, Wyoming, at we mentioned it before, but the Fire Rock Steakhouse. I found out there's 2 locations of Fire Rock: Casper, Wyoming, and Las Vegas. So it's a Vegas steakhouse brought to Casper, Wyoming.
They were so sweet. The
They
food
were
was
awesome.
so good. We ate there twice. We slept in their parking lot with their permission. It was amazing. And that brings up another topic, how we ate on this trip.
How we ate. So we, as some of you know, have been working on intermittent fasting. We've been eating a ketogenic diet since around New Year's. And
Let me be clear, not since around New Year's, since December 31st of 2017, when we said goodbye to pasta and french fries and sugar.
starch.
You know,
We didn't say, yeah.
yes,
So-
we did.
So after we lost some weight doing that, we kind of flattened out a little bit and we started learning about intermittent fasting, which you will hear a lot more about from us. We're actually, by the time we do our next podcast, we'll have launched a new project around this topic and we'll be trumpeting that mightily. But so intermittent fasting, the easiest way to do intermittent fasting is just to skip breakfast, right? So we skipped breakfast every day and we would go till about noon. And the way we were doing it was to eat like hogs at lunch and then not snack and then eat like hogs at dinner. So we, on a keto diet, what you eat is a lot of meat and a lot of vegetables. So Eve would do all of her navigational research and we would find restaurants that had great steak. Hi, Jacob. We're happy to see you too. Have great steak and salads, and then for dinner we would have like steak and salads and bacon wrapped around something else. But that's how we ate. We ate 2 meals a day, very little snacking in between, and would just pig out on those 2 meals a day.
And it was awesome, and we actually lost weight during vacation.
Yeah.
For the first time in our lives.
Yeah. So
It's not a lot, like a couple pounds, but still.
Yeah.
It's
So
awesome.
it was a 2-week vacation. We did not balloon up with the vacation 15.
And I picked out all the restaurants except for one. Levi did a really good job picking the Anchor in Wichita
Yeah.
on the way back. And we ate a lot of seafood and steak and Fire Rock. What was the place we had Jackson Hole that Dan suggested? That was Snake River Grill.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And hi Diana, hi Mark. And we ate a lot on vacation and kept getting hotter. Which is really what matters.
Just Eve's word for skinnier.
It's what's on the outside that counts.
So we're home now. A couple of housekeeping items. We're going to continue to do our podcast, and in the absence of big well, we're traveling again in a couple of weeks. We're going to Japan, so we'll have things to say about that. But the podcast is now officially on iTunes. So if you have a podcast app or you have an iPhone that you listen to podcasts on, you can actually search for the Eve and Levi podcast and find it and subscribe to it. The episodes will go up usually about a day after we do the live videos.
Diana says we look amazing.
We do look amazing, thank you.
Diana, you look amazing. Stop it.
So it's on iTunes, super excited about that. I have found it on Pocket Cast, on the Google Podcast app. You can definitely find it on your iPhone now. You can find it on iTunes. If you listen and download, or just download it, I don't care if you listen or not. We just need the downloads. And leave a review if you think we're interesting.
Tell them what it's named.
The Eve and Levi podcast.
Yes, thank you, Benita. It was an amazing trip. This
It was a
country
great trip.
is gorgeous. There are so many kind people and so many beautiful things to see. I stopped eating sugar and stevia and unnatural sugar about a month ago, and I think it allowed me to focus on the trip more for the first time in my life and not be distracted, even though it was hard, and it was pretty amazing.
Need our secrets on healthy eating.
Oh,
Diana.
all right.
So stay tuned. Next week when we do our podcast, we'll have some very specific information about that. And Diana, you can certainly message Eve and she can sort of give you a head start on
we're
that.
actually launching a whole new business endeavor around fasting and keto and low carb, high fat. We've been doing this for 6 months. And we're working with some incredible, well-known professionals on that. And we're going to be launching an entire site, a couple of sites actually, and tell you all about that next week when I have big hair.
So we've been talking for almost 40 minutes,
Cool.
which is maybe our longest podcast ever. We're super excited to share with you guys. Anything else you want to think about before
This
we go?
week, if you've noticed, there's been something missing, and that's Luna, our daughter, who we will be picking up this week. She has been at Camp Kickapoo and having a fabulous time riding horses and swimming in a, what's that, a lake or a river? A river. Swimming in a river and making so many friends, and she will have been there almost 3 weeks, and we get to pick her up on Friday, and I can't friggin' wait. Do you want to add anything?
I'm really excited about the projects we got coming up. We're going to be pushing out this information fast and furious. If anybody would like to find out more, please message us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube at the Even Levi YouTube channel. You can find us at evenlevi.com. It's probably the easiest, most memorable place to go. We're going to start posting some of our pictures and some of the stats from the trip there, and we don't really know what that site's going to be yet, but it's just a place where we can talk about stuff that doesn't have anything to do with anything else. So thank you all so much for spending some time with us. We still got 6 people on the Facebook video.
Hi,
That's
Emily.
Awesome. Hi, Emily. Let us know what you guys want to hear from us about. We work on digital marketing. We work on training sales folks. We work on company core values and culture. We work on healthy living.
Hyper-transparency. We talk about marriage and entrepreneur life.
We have a dog, we have a van, so hashtag van life, hashtag dogs of Instagram. Whatever it is you are interested in hearing about, please let us know, because we love to talk, and I'm happy to do all the research we need to do so that we sound knowledgeable when we do it.
And if there's anything you would like us to shut up about, tell us that too. Like, Eva really don't want to hear about your hair or your dog, so let me know.
Who doesn't want to hear about you?
I don't know. Hi, Margie. Thank you, Diana. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the 6th episode of Eve and Levi podcast.
We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.